All right, yeah! Thank God for fantasy football. I'm Buster Brown, and the show, well, it's called Redemption Rehab. Today, we're talking about our weekly waiver wire report for fantasy football. If you've had a good start to your season, well, that's just great. But if you didn't have a great start, we are here to help. So buckle up, get out your popcorn, and let's head over to the chalkboard and
check out the facts.
Okay, here we are checking out week 6 of the NFL weekly waiver wire report for fantasy football. Behind me on the screen is RT Sports. They're an affiliate of ours, and we use them, so we'd like to thank them for their cooperation. This is a league that I'm in. But before we get to week 6, we got to recap some of the things we did in week 5. Some of the players we mentioned in week 5 were this guy, Taysom Hill, tight end for New Orleans. He also plays quarterback, but as you can see down here, he scored 34 points. He didn't catch any balls, but he had 9 rushes for 112 yards and 3 TDs. And I'll tell you right now, if you want a good player, as we said in week 5, and he's on your waiver wire and he plays tight end, you should go out and get Taysom Hill. We mentioned him last week. Who else did we mention last week that would have helped you win your league? How about this guy, Alex Pierce? He's a rookie wide receiver over here for Indianapolis, 211 pounds, 6'3". As you can see, for the last 2 weeks after he came back from injury, the first 2 weeks, he's starting to put up numbers. He had 8 catches, 81 yards on 9 targets. If you get a chance, go out and get this guy. We mentioned him last week, and he would have helped you win your league in week 5. Who else did we mention last week that you should have went out and got? How about this guy, Tevin Coleman? What did he do? Let's check it out. Okay, Tevin Coleman comes off the practice squad, used to play for the Jets. Before that, the Atlanta Falcons. And I can tell you right now, man, comes in and scores 21 points in a part-time role. Catches, rushes the ball 8 times for 23 yards, gets a touchdown. Catches the ball 3 times for 44 yards on 3 targets, and gets another touchdown. Look, if you want a veteran player, and the San Francisco 49ers do want veteran running backs toting the ball. They like Jeff Wilson, but he gets hurt a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tevin Coleman gets some playing time. And don't forget about Marlon Mack. If something happens to Jeff Wilson, that's who they're going to bring up, not one of these rookies. Let's check out some other guys I like for week 6 of the NFL season. Okay, if you'd have watched our show in week 5, you would have seen that we told you to go out and get the New England Patriots defense. They're only rostered in about 33% of most leagues, so they're probably available. If you'd have listened, you'd have saw that they got you nearly 20 to 26 points against the Detroit Lions, where they shut them out 27-0. We like their schedule coming up against Cleveland, Chicago, the New York Jets, and the Indianapolis Colts. Let's go take a look at some guys we like for week 6 of the NFL season. Okay, here we are looking at week 6 of the NFL weekly waiver wire report. Behind me is a screen of the depth chart at running back and the team for the Denver Broncos. Damien Williams is out, and we told you they were going to have to replace somebody. Last week, we told you to go out and get this guy, Mike Boone. Let's take a look and see what he did. As you can see right here, Mike Boone got you 11, maybe 12 points in your PPR league, 7 rushes for 38 yards, caught 3 balls for 47 yards. I think that he's going to produce. If he's available in your league, go out and get him. Who else do we like on this team? How about this guy right here, Latavius Murray? He's been in the league for a long time, but let's see what he played for. The Raiders, he's played for Baltimore, he's played for New Orleans. As of 2 weeks ago, he scored a touchdown in England. He's a guy you should be going out and picking up, especially if you've got Melvin Gordon or Mike Boone. This guy's going to get some playing time later in the year because let's face it, running backs are dropping like flies in the NFL. At least keep Latavius Murray on your radar. Okay, here's some more players you should be looking at, either keeping on your radar or picking up guys like we've mentioned for weeks now. And this guy, Raheem Mostar. Raheem Mostar came in last week after Teddy Bridgewater got hurt. Tua Tagovailoa's out, and let's see what he does. 19 points, almost 20, 18 for 113 yards, 1 TD rushing, only caught 1 ball. But he's not even the starting running back. Everybody thought it was this guy over here, Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds didn't do very well last week. I don't know if it's because he's injured or maybe they're trying to phase him out. But I tell you what, I'd keep an eye on that situation. And this guy here too, Myles Gaskin. He's been around Miami situation for a few years, and he might get some playing time, especially if there's an injury to Raheem Mostar. Okay, those are guys we've been mentioning at running back and other positions for weeks now. But we got to worry about week 6, whether you're in an 8-man, 10-man, 12-man, 12-team league. Maybe this guy might be on your waiver wire. He's going to be the hot commodity this week, and his name is Kenneth Walker III. Rashad Penny broke his leg, might be out for the season. Broken, tibia. Doubt he's coming back. The other guy you want to keep an eye on is DJ Dallas. He's also playing as a backup to Kenneth Walker. He's going to be the hot commodity. He's owned in about 44% of most leagues. Let's take a look at why you want this guy. As you can see here, he had 14.8 points, 8 carries, 88 yards, a touchdown. Didn't catch any balls, but I can assure you he does. We told you that Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall, who got drafted by the New York Jets, would be the two guys I'd want to know where they were going. Breece Hall had an amazing game in week 5, would have got you 20-some points. We talked about him on our NFL pre-draft special show, and we talked about this guy. I'm going to tell you right now, this guy has a chance to prove himself. He's got a decent schedule. Arizona, the Chargers, the Giants, back to Arizona before he runs into some trouble against Tampa Bay in a bye week. I'll tell you what, if you get a chance to go out and get Kenneth Walker, it's going to cost you a bunch of money, but he's worth it. Let's take a look at some other guys we like. Okay, before we talk about the Atlanta Falcons running back situation because Cordell Patterson's out, we want to make sure that you guys understand you better have your handcuff situation under control. James Conner went down. Whether he plays or not this weekend's important. So if Eno Benjamin's on your waiver wire, you might want to go get him as a handcuff to James Conner. Other handcuffs you better know about. Najee Harris handcuff is Jaylen Warren. Go out and get him. He's starting to play really well. So that's the Pittsburgh Steelers running back group there. And another guy we really like, Brian Robinson. He's only rostered in about 30% of most leagues. He's the backup basically in Washington Commanders. He was a rookie. We talked about him in our NFL pre-draft special show, and we like him a lot out of Alabama. He was in a carjacking. He was injured, and he's back, and he's going to get some playing time for the Washington Commanders. Brian Robinson, remember that guy. He'll be important later this year once he's fully healthy. Other guys, how about this Atlanta backfield? If you look behind me, we told you last week, go out and get Tyler Algier. What did he do? As you can see here, he was up against a tough defense. Tampa Bay's number 1 or number 2 against the running backs. He only got 4 points on 13 carries for 45 yards. We also told you about this guy, Caleb Huntley. He blew up against the Cleveland Browns. Let's see what he did against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As you can see here, he didn't do anything. 8 carries for 34 yards. Another guy you might want to keep an eye out over here is Avery Williams. He had a decent day, did manage to get in the end zone as the 3rd running back. But the guy we talked about in week 5 and the guy that we think is going to come back as basically the guy that's got the most experience is Damien Williams. Damien Williams hasn't played all year long. He played in week 1, got put on IR in week 2. He's been out for 4 weeks, but he's going to come back healthy. And I'll tell you what, don't be surprised if he's the guy that takes over this backfield until Cordell Patterson comes back, basically because he's got the most experience. I'll tell you what, now we're going to take a look at some wide receivers. We told you about Alex Pierce last week and the week before. We told you about Mac Hollins for the Las Vegas Raiders a few weeks ago. He got you 30 points. Well, we've got some great sleeper picks this week, so let's go check them out. Okay, wide receivers. We've been nailing these sleeper wide receivers, and we got a sleeper for you this week too. But guys, we've mentioned in the past few weeks that you need to check out, like we said earlier, Alec Pierce of the Indianapolis Colts. As you can see, what's be up on the screen behind me, Alec Pierce has put up some serious numbers. And for the Indianapolis Colts, he's the number 2 guy. You can see he's had a pretty good 3 weeks here. Another guy we really like who's on bye this week is with the Detroit Lions, Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds has had an amazing NFL season so far. He's on bye this week, so he might be on your waiver wire that you could pick up in a couple weeks or this week. Look at the amount of points he's been scoring recently, especially with the injuries that Detroit has had. Another guy we really like, and we told you about last week, is Rondelle Moore of the Arizona Cardinals. As you can see here, he had an amazing week last week. DeAndre Hopkins is coming back after week 6, so there's going to be more players playing for the Arizona Cardinals at wide receiver. So I think he's a good pickup for at least next week. And 2 more guys that we talked about last week, George Pickens for the Pittsburgh Steelers. As you can see here, with the rookie quarterback coming in, these guys had a lot of practice time together, and they're both rookies. I like both these guys a lot. And as you can see here, George Pickens had a good game last week against Buffalo. And Jacoby Myers, we told you, man, this guy's only rostered in 40% of leagues, and he's might be out there in your league. As you can see, he's had a good week last week coming back from injury, and he's somebody you should be thinking about. But on the screen, as you can see behind me, we have up the Buffalo Bills. And the reason I want to show you these guys, because they've got a couple up-and-coming young receivers that you need to look at. I mean, they're having trouble at tight end with Dawson Knox being injured. Gabriel Davis has been injured. The running backs are just basically a crew of 3. They're not producing as much. And there's 2 guys right here, Isaiah McKenzie, who had a concussion. I'll tell you right now, man, this kid's a player. If you can go out and get Isaiah McKenzie, even though he didn't play last week, he had 2 good weeks before that. And this guy right here, Khalil Shakir, he's a rookie, and I'll tell you what, I really like him. I think he's going to be a good player. Let's look and see what these guys have done. As you can see here, Khalil Shakir is out of Boise State. He's a rookie, 190 pounds, 6 foot. Basically a slot receiver, but can play out wide. And I'll tell you right now, he had a decent game against Pittsburgh. That's a pretty good defense. 3 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown on 5 targets. He's going to get a chance to play, especially if the Buffalo Bills have injuries at wide receiver, and I keep him on my radar. And the other guy we mentioned is this guy, Isaiah McKenzie. Been in the league a while, out of Georgia, 6 years, 173, and he's going to get a lot more playing time depending upon how this concussion situation works out. As you can see, he put up a big fat 0 against Pittsburgh because he was inactive, but he's coming back. If he doesn't play, we like Shakir that we just mentioned. If he does play, he's going to have a big game against Kansas City, and you want to put him in your lineup before they go on bye. Okay, as you can see on the screen behind me, here's a team, the New York Giants, that's playing well above their heads right now. Daniel Jones, as you can see over here, doing okay this year behind an offensive line that has 2 good tackles, but not much in the middle. Saquon Barkley's having an amazing year. I think he's looking for a new contract from the Giants. He's also been involved in some trade rumors. As far as wide receivers, what we're talking about, I really am not a big fan of Kenny Golladay. He's definitely on the wrong team. Hopefully the Giants either release him or he goes to another team so he can finish his career, because it's not working out in New York. Darius Slayton, let's take a look and see what he did this week. As you can see here, Darius Slayton, who's had a decent career in New York, did a good job in England against the Green Bay Packers. 13 points, 14 points, 6 catches on 7 targets. This guy's not a bad player. I just think that he's on the wrong team playing and not getting the practice time. Richie James is playing over his head right now. I'm not sure I like any of the guys I've talked about at wide receiver. The guy I still have on a lot of my teams who's done nothing this year is this guy, Cadarius Tony. Let's see what he's done. As you can see, all this 0s. He only played a little bit, but he's been hurt. And he's been hurt all year. He's number 1 pick. He's out with a hamstring, inactive in week 5. May come back here soon if he's on your waiver wire. Not sure I'm picking him up until I see him play. And the last guy I want to mention is Wayndell Robinson. He's also been hurt all year. He hasn't done anything. He's a rookie, but he's one of those guys that can play running back, can play wide receiver. Hell, it wouldn't surprise me if he couldn't play quarterback. So this guy is somebody I'd keep on my radar. And if he has a good game, you might want to go pick up Wayndell Robinson, rookie. Let's go take a look at one more veteran before we head over and look at tight ends. Okay, on the screen behind me, you can see the Green Bay Packers. They got an amazing running backs and Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Great quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. Not such great tight ends. I don't know what they're going to do there. And there's basically the offensive line's average. If they could just get everybody back healthy, I think they'd be a good running game. But the wide receivers are killing them right now. Last week and the weeks we've told you about Romeo Doubs, rookie, kid out of Nevada. He doesn't show up every week. He has a good game, then has an average game, and that bothers me. Alan Lazard can't stay healthy. And last week, this guy, Randall Cobb in England, comes out and balls out. Let's take a look at what he did. As you can see here, he's not having a bad season. I mean, he started out slow and he's getting going. And he's got, almost 17 points, 7 receptions on 99 yards on 13 targets. He plays the Jets, the Washington Commanders, and then, the Detroit Lions. That's a pretty easy schedule, even though it'll be difficult against Buffalo and Dallas. But he's got some upcoming games, and he'd be somebody I'd be put on my radar. If you absolutely need a wide receiver this week, this is somebody I would consider picking up and trying out against the New York Jets. Okay, that's it for wide receivers we like for week 6. Let's go over and take a look at some tight ends we like this week. Okay, here we are taking a look at some tight ends. We already told you about Taysom Hill, tight end / Swiss Army knife from the New Orleans Saints. But we really like this guy behind me, Hayden Hurst. Look what he did last week with T. Higgins out. 17 points, 6 for 53 and a touchdown against his old team. When you get a chance to pick when someone's hurt T. Higgins, this guy stepped up to the plate and had a good game. We do like him, and we think he's worth putting on your roster, maybe even starting, especially if T. Higgins doesn't come back and play next week against New Orleans, who they're playing next week. We do have some other sleepers we like at tight end. Let's take a look at those guys. If you want a good tight end that can help you get some points, especially if you have a bye week, which starts in week 6, there are teams that are on bye. You should check out to see who that is so you don't start somebody and they're not even playing. So if you do need a tight end, this guy right here, Evan Ingram, you take a look at what he's done. He used to play for the New York Giants, and now he plays for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I always really like this guy. Let's see what he's been up to this year. As you can see here, he had a couple good games here against Indy and here against Houston. Hasn't gotten in the end zone yet, but 6 catches for 69 yards on 10 targets. That tells me he's in the game plan every week, and he's playing against the Indianapolis Colts and the Giants, then Denver. I mean, he's got a decent schedule where he might get in the end zone here, and he might put up some good numbers. So if you do need a tight end for a week, I would highly suggest Evan Ingram. And we've got a couple sleeper picks. I mean, these are deep sleepers that you just want to keep on your radar to see if they're going to produce. Okay, behind me on the screen is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers depth chart. And, if Cameron Brate is available at tight end, he's probably a good bet that he's going to have 4 or 5 passes thrown to him. But he had a concussion, and he didn't play last week. He was inactive against Atlanta Falcons. But this guy in here, Cade Otton, he's a rookie, and he got in a chance to play. Let's take a look and see what he did last week. Okay, Cade Otton is a rookie. As you can see here, he's a big kid, 6'5", 240. Last week he comes in, played the week before when Cameron Brate got hurt. Here he had, 5-6 points, 3 catches, 29 yards on 4 targets. Comes in against Atlanta, puts up pretty decent numbers for a guy no one's ever heard of. 6 catches, 43 yards on 7 targets. I do like the guy. He's a sleeper pick. If you get a chance to go out and you need a tight end and you're desperate, I think Cade Otton might be someone you want to consider against Pittsburgh. That's who they play this week at Pittsburgh. And that I would only do that if Cameron Brate is not playing. And our deep sleeper we mentioned last week, if you didn't get a chance to see week 5, weekly waiver wire report, we told you about Greg Dulcich. He's been on IR out in Denver. He's probably coming back, if not this week, soon. But keep an eye on that tight end, Greg Dulcich, rookie wide receiver out of UCLA. And when he gets activated, don't be surprised if he takes over that tight end position out there in Denver for Albert O, who's basically a guy that you should be cutting. Albert Oakley Boonham. I'd go ahead and cut him because the guy I think you want is Greg Dulcich. Let's take a look at some quarterbacks you should be looking at this week. Okay, a guy that we've been talking about for weeks, and we keep mentioning him because he's still only owned in about 34% of fantasy football leagues, is this guy here, Geno Smith. I mean, he's just been producing. I can't believe I'm telling you again to pick up Geno Smith. Let's take a look and see what he's been doing. I mean, look at here. What's not to like? 26, 38, 32, plays Arizona, the Chargers, the Giants, Arizona before he runs into the buzzsaw defense of Tampa Bay. So he's worth picking up and playing if you have to, because I think he's going to continue to play well this year, and he's played well up to this point. He's well coached, and he's a veteran, been in the league, 10 years. Geno Smith out of West Virginia. Who else do we like at quarterback? Okay, another guy we've liked pretty much all year, but he has a serious back and knee injury. You can see here, Jameis Winston, been in the league 8 years, used to play for Tampa Bay. Hasn't played much, played hurt the first 3 weeks. They decided to sit him down and say, look, we'll get your knee right, get your back right, which he has a cracked bone in his back. And I think he's about ready to come back. He's got a good schedule: Cincinnati, Arizona, Las Vegas, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, before he runs into some tough defenses in the Rams, San Francisco, and Tampa Bay before they go on bye. So I think he might be worth picking up. I would find out if he's active first, because he might not be. In that case, you're going to see Andy Dalton play, or even Taysom Hill, who we mentioned at tight end, get a little bit of quarterback. But I think he's worth playing basically because of the schedule. You just have to know if he's healthy or if he's active. We've got one more quarterback I want to show you for this week. And the quarterback I want to show you this week is this guy here, Jimmy Garoppolo. Been in the league 9 years, used to play for New England, comes to San Francisco, wasn't supposed to be the guy this year, but they held on to him with the injuries that they've had out there, which they've had 9 starters on both sides of the ball get hurt. So it's the same old out there in San Francisco. But you could see he had a good game last week against a decent defense in Carolina on the road. 18 for 30, 250 yards with 2 touchdowns. So look at his schedule. Atlanta, that's a good game. Kansas City. The Rams have been giving up a lot of points lately. Their defense isn't as good as it used to be, and before he goes on bye. So I do like Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe you could throw him in there or put him on your bench. We're going to give you some defenses we like and a kicker before we let you go. Stick around. Okay, last week we told you about the New England Patriots. They went out and shut out the Detroit Lions. We really like the New England Patriots. If they're on your waiver wire, go out and play them. They've got a good schedule for the next 4 or 5 weeks. I like New England. But if you need a sleeper, maybe you're caught on a bye week, or maybe there's just nobody left, like in leagues I'm in, I would consider the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, they're not rostered in a lot of leagues, 41%. Only 23 started them in this league on RT Sports. But you can see right now their schedule's pretty good. They play the Jacksonville Jaguars at home. Then they play Tennessee and Tennessee, the Washington Commanders. They got New England, who's struggling at quarterback with the injuries going on there. So they've got weeks coming up here that you might be able to sneak them in there. They're on just about every waiver wire, and I would consider picking them up if you need a defense, if New England's not available. And if you want yourself a good kicker who's hurt right now, is probably not going to play this week, but we're not sure, is Harrison Buckner of the Kansas City Chiefs. High-scoring offense, as you can see here. He's playing Buffalo this week and San Francisco before he goes on bye. So we're not sure when he's coming back. He's been out for 4 or 5 weeks, so keep him on your radar. And a guy that's been tearing it up here the last few weeks is this guy, Gano. He's having a pretty decent year, as you can see here, with the points that he's been scoring. He's got a good matchup against Baltimore, Jacksonville, Seattle over the next 3 weeks. So we do like Gano. Okay, well, that's it for this week's Weekly Waiver Wire Report. I'm Buster Brown. The show is called Redemption Rehab. Good luck.